Hello, my YouTube family. This is Kim. I picked up something today that I have been having a heck of a time finding, which is really odd for this time of year in Michigan. I've looked all over the place. I've called every place around me, and I ended up having to go to the city today to take my nephew to get his eye exam. And, you know, they dilate your eyeballs and you don't need to be driving 2 hours home. So I decided to go with them and drive him back. And I finally found, let me show you, some Michigan-grown strawberries. Yes, believe it or not, it's getting very difficult to find strawberries in Michigan. One, because our weather the last couple of years has been really horrible in the spring. We can get snow up until the end of May when they're almost ready to bloom. The blooms fall off. Or it's super, super wet in the spring, and then like June comes and it just stops raining and we don't get any moisture, and strawberries need a lot of moisture. And most importantly, a lot of our strawberry farmers are getting old and just going out of business. So I was very lucky. These were just picked this morning by a farm down in, I believe it's in Chesterfield Township, somewhere around there. And they brought these in, and unfortunately it was limit one case. I picked up one case, and it was $28. Now, I wish I didn't have to pay that much, but you know what? I'm going to show you how I'm going to preserve these for the coming year, and ways that I kind of make them stretch a little bit further, because, you know, it's to me, it's more than just throwing them in the freezer. I sort them, and I want some for fresh eating. And I just don't take one of these packages and throw it in the refrigerator, and I'll show you why in just a minute here. All right, the first thing I'm going to do here is fill my sink with some water, because I've done a video on this in the past, and I guarantee you, if you want to extend the life of your strawberries, that you soak them for just a couple of minutes in water that has a really good splash of vinegar in it. They will last you 9 or 10 days longer in most cases, because the vinegar will get rid of any of the fungal infections, funguses like, and mold and things like that, so they won't deteriorate faster. And of course, the riper they are, the faster they're going to deteriorate, and mine are nice and ripe. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this sink up and put my berries in there, and then I will be right back. Okay, I have all my berries in the sink, and I'm going to put, like I said, it's not going to affect the flavor, but I'm going to put a pretty good splash of vinegar. It's probably a good solid half cup in my water, and then I just gently move them around. Now you want them to be able to float a little bit, because you don't want to squish anybody in there. Okay, and then the next step is quite simple. I start to sort my berries. Which ones are ripe enough to go directly in the freezer? Which ones, like this, that have a little bit of damage to them, that I'm going to slice up? Because I like to put a lot of my berries whole, but if it's got damage, I don't want that in my freezer like that. And I'm going to slice some up for, eating right now. So what I do is I take the berries and I sort them into containers. So this row is going to be my, need to be sliced and bad parts cut off. And then I have the ones to go in the freezer. And then eventually I have ones that are still a little bit green, because I'm going to lay those out and let them, you put them in a single layer, and I'll use this box when I'm done. You let them finish ripening. You see, the ones that you get in the store are usually, at least in my area, are shipped like 2,000 miles. And, you'll get some that are kind of fuzzy in there, and then you'll get some that are only partly ripe, and some that aren't ripe at all. And, they're most likely they shipped them like this, where they're not quite ripe enough. And with a little bit of time, if you're lucky, you can get this to ripen up a little bit better. So I put these in their own containers. And by the way, underneath that crate, I put a couple of towels here
to get any liquid that, is obviously going to drain out. But, the process takes a minute. Now, that one's so I start a kind of line. That one has some damage, needs to be cut off. That one I'm going to look at again. This one is slightly green, so I'm going to put that one aside, and so on. I want to, get the best berries I can because, one, I spent a lot of money on them, and two, they're kind of scarce in our area. I don't want to have to buy the ones that are shipped in from, even Mexico sometimes. So, I want to do what I can. Now, sometimes I turn them into jelly. Right now, I do not have any of the low sugar gel. I prefer to use that. Because I don't even have to use it at all, I could just use very little sugar or no sugar, which is what I prefer. And I do give a lot of my jellies away to family members and things. So I want to make sure, certain family members are diabetic and they're not supposed to have the extra sugars. So, I make it, and I don't need it either, to be honest. So I make sure that I have what's appropriate for everybody. Now, this is my first look through. Obviously, when I'm ready to process them, I can look through them again and make sure they're in my baskets that I want them in. Believe me, I looked through the berries and I picked out the absolute best ones they had, but you know what? Sometimes you don't always get the perfect berries. If you get perfect berries, somebody's already done this process for you. So the ones that are slightly green like that, I'm going to leave, I'm going to decide whether I want to, in a minute, go ahead and just cut the green out and process them or not. See, that one needs to be cut. So I am going to very quickly finish up sorting my berries. And if you want to watch, I'll speed it up for you. All right, we finally made it to the end here. And you know what? Let me wipe my hands off here real quick. I am overall pretty pleased with what I got in this here. Now, I only have, those are all I have that had any kind of minor damage, no mold whatsoever, no bad spots. Then I had 4 of them that I can immediately hull and put in the freezer. And then these are, I could do it if I wanted to slice off some of the unraw parts, but I'm going to lay them out, let them ripen. These are slightly more unripe, so I want to let them go a little bit. So these are going to end up in my refrigerator after I slice them up. These are going to go in the freezer, and those will go in a few days when they ripen up a little bit. Also gives me time to if I want to slice some more when these other ones are gone. As you know, I'm eating a low-carb diet, so I cannot have too many of these a day. 5 or 6 strawberries to stay within the macros I want to be, and, half a cup or so. So anyway, I'm going to do the next process with these here, and actually I'm going to back up. I'm going to start slicing these, and then I need to make sure that these are dry, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tops off. That's a little bit underripe. I'm going to take the tops off, and then I put them right onto a cookie sheet on a Silpat, and they go straight in my freezer. Once they're frozen solid, then I put them into bags. So I'm going to start that process after I get these sliced up. All right, for my slicing berries, I have 2 bowls. One is for the birds. Take my huller, I just twist out the center. I find I save more berry that way. I look for any spots that are a little bit bad. I slice out as little as I have to, because obviously I want to save as much berry as I can. Then I can just either slice them or chunk them into the other bowl to get ready for the refrigerator. And these, the other reason I like local berries is these are so sweet. I do not need to sweeten them with any kind of sweetener or sugar. And the ones that I attempt to like in the winter, I have to admit, I'm pretty bad about not liking things that are shipped very far. You know, they always need sugar, and they're always kind of like, I don't know, kind of taste like wax, to be honest. And these are the only thing that's why I like to get them when they're in season. If I was close down there, I'd probably go back tomorrow and get another case. But I'm going to keep calling around up here to see if anybody has them. There's one or two places that are getting them in, but they're selling them almost as fast as they get them in, which is, good for them, bummer for me. And at $4 a quart, they're going really fast. I got these for, 8 quarts for $28 because you get a little bit of a deal when you buy the whole flat, or as they call them, a case. So I'm going to have some good eaten berries for a couple of days here, and I know they'll last. Now, once they're sliced and the tops are taken off, they won't last as long once you do the vinegar trick as if you left them whole. But between me and my nephew, I don't think these are going to last more than a day, so maybe 2 if I'm lucky. I already had my dose for today, and hopefully I can have some tomorrow before they're gone. And luckily this year in Michigan, the raspberry harvest is looking really good, which is probably, I would have to rank, my favorite fruits would be raspberries, then strawberries, then blueberries, and then you get into the melons and such. But I am a total berry lover. Oh, they forgot blackberries. So I love berries, and I luckily have a nice big raspberry patch growing this year. So anyway, I'm going to finish these up, and then I'll move on to the whole ones. All right, I'm down to my last berry, and I may admit that I might have had to eat 1 or 2 because they weren't going to fit in the bowl, right? Was this getting a little full? Can I use that as an excuse? I hope. And there, I'm going to have to find a cover for it and get it in the refrigerator. I'm not going to add any sugar or anything because they're sweet enough. So that's what I got from the ones that had, quote, bad spots on them. And the tops and a little bit of waste. I did have to cut a few pieces off here and there. Otherwise, they're not bad. And that took care of those 2. The next ones, I'm going to move the entire amount of them and get old towels here. You don't want to, mess up your new towels. I'm going to start spreading them out on my towel to dry here because I don't want any ice crystals to form on them when I put them in the freezer. So I'm going to do a couple of, because I had 4 of these, I think I could fit maybe 3 reasonably on here. Want them to have a little bit of room to dry, and I kind of roll them around a little bit to help them dry. I can look for other ones that might not be perfect, but all in all, these are pretty, I don't know if I picked them myself if I could do much better. Maybe a little bit, but not much, because I always feel in the ones in the store, it's like they always hide some of the bad ones on the bottom or in the middle that you can't see. So I was pretty happy with what I got here. All right, so let these dry a little bit, and then on to taking the hulls off, throwing them on a cookie sheet, and then putting them in the freezer. Once that's done, I'll show you bagging them up. You don't need to watch me do all that, right? That's just the same as I started with those. So same process, just whole. These guys are the ones that were still a little bit green. So like I said, I'm going to spread them out in the box. I don't want them touching too much. And I put them on paper towels because I don't want them to be really wet, and I want it to absorb some of that water. Those are going to go where I'm going to walk past them. I'll pick through them every day. And those will be my next fresh eating berries when they're finally ripe. So over the course of
4 or 5 days, those should ripen up. These are what I have left that I don't have room for on my tray. And these guys right here are going right down inside my freezer. I try to level it out the best I can. Oops, sorry for the close-up. But they're going to go overnight, or for 4 or 5 hours, because it's later in the evening. They're going to go overnight. Once they're frozen solid, off they go into vacuum bags, and then right back into the freezer. So that's the next step for these. And I'm sure you don't have to watch that. There's enough, videos to show you how to use a zipper vac. What am I calling a zipper vac? A vacuum sealer. So these are ready to go next, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do another tray or if I'm going to use those as slicers. I'll make up my mind in the next day or so.